I remember when I had my very first anxiety attack. I was 24 years old, and I was sitting in my cubicle at my microfinance job in Boston. It was a rainy day, and I felt my chest tighten, and I felt my heart started to race, and I felt this pit in my stomach, and this overwhelming sense of doom just wash over me. So this was back in 2009. The economy had just crashed, and we were in the depths of a recession. So everybody at the office was freaking out about layoffs. And I was freaking out about that too, because I obviously didn't want to lose my job, but I was also wondering what I was going to do with my life. And I wasn't super happy. I would watch my super stressed out coworkers reach for processed food and coffee just to get through the day and then numb themselves to get rid of the stress with happy hour after work at night. And it just didn't really fit with who I was. So I thought, gosh, well, maybe I should go to law school. That's what people do when they have a political science degree and they don't know what to do with their lives. But then again, it would have been more of the same, more long hours, more stress, more dreaded sea of monochromatic cubicles. Looking around that office during my quarter-life crisis, I knew one thing. I did not want their life to become mine. Well, luckily, it didn't, because I got laid off. I'm so glad I got laid off, because it allowed me to take a completely different path in my life. I said no to law school. I became a personal trainer. And shortly after, I moved to Los Angeles, hoping to one day open up my own gym. And this was an awesome job. I got to be around cool people all day. I got to learn how to make myself look hot for the rest of my life. And I got to help other people feel strong and powerful and incredible in the only home they would ever live in for the rest of their life, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, their bodies. But little did I know that in this process, caring for others' bodies would lead to the collapse of my own. So fast forward a decade. By 34, I had my very own gym on Melrose Avenue, super iconic street in Los Angeles. I had worked with some of the top Fortune 500 companies as a speaker and a wellness consultant. And I'd gone from helping dozens of people a week with my personal training to thousands. And from the outside, it really looked like I had made it. But what no one saw was me sitting alone at night in front of my computer, staring at a screen, just absolutely suffocated by the number in front of me. $250,000 in debt. Turns out it costs money to start a business and all that, you know. But I wasn't prepared for that pressure. And then it just happened all over again. The same feeling that I felt at 24 in that cube just came washing over me, right back again. Heart was racing, tightness in my chest. And I remember just sitting there thinking, what am I going to do? And obviously I didn't want to feel that way, so I had to get help. So I did what any sensible person would do. I went to therapy. I got some medication for my anxiety. I went hardcore into personal development. I studied mindset. I did 1,500 days of consecutive meditation. I did all the things. But it didn't stop that feeling at 3 a.m. when I would wake up in a cold sweat, wishing that I could just escape my body, escape my life, and just be done with this awful feeling. But I kept pushing. I kept medicating, I kept my head high, I kept my mindset up. And then it was 2020. Turns out, global pandemic is a pretty bad time to own a brick and mortar gym. Yeah, it was not great. And I did everything I could. I was working, 14, 16-hour days, trying to keep my community together, to make sure that my staff had a place to work. I was doing everything I could to just make sure that I had a business to come back to once this was all over. And by then, my anxiety attacks had becoming daily. Every night I would wake up at 2 a.m. Sometimes I would sit in front of my computer and I would just feel so incredibly numb that I wouldn't be able to do anything. I couldn't focus. Once again, I kept pushing. I kept medicating. I just kept doing all the right things. And they even had me on CNN to interview me as an example of resilience and leadership. And then one day, I just completely broke. As I stood up from the kitchen table to go to the living room to watch some TV to numb out, I stood up and my knees buckled under me and I crashed to the floor and I hit my head and blacked out. I later woke up concussed, only to find out that the same medicine that was supposed to be helping me likely caused my collapse. And at that point, I was just so fed up. I was so done. I had been struggling with this anxiety for years, and nothing seemed to help. I just figured like this was just going to be something I'd have to deal with for the rest of my life that would feel debilitating. And unfortunately, this is the reality for most of us. According to the American Psychological Association, 75% of Americans suffer from mental and physiological symptoms of stress. So obviously anxiety and depression, but also things like digestive issues, gut issues, difficulty concentrating, brain fog, having trouble sleeping, all of these things like aches and pains that we chalk up to like, well, I'm 30 years old now, I'm 40, I'm 50, I'm getting old. But you're not getting old. These are just symptoms of chronic stress. And it's become so pervasive that we just accept it as par for the course. And it's become so bad that also according to the APA, 37% of Americans say that on most days, their stress is so bad that they can't bring themselves to do anything. Not some days, most days. That's over a third of this country. It might not be you, but it could be your friend, your brother, your sister, your friend, your colleague. And this is incredibly sad because not only is this a massive waste of human potential, it is a massive waste of human joy. And it doesn't have to be that way. But don't worry, it gets better, it gets happier. I'm not gonna just trauma dump on you and leave you with that. Okay, so one day, they said don't show pictures of your kids, but I had to. One day, while I was in the depths of my despair, I decided to go for a walk with my dog, Mara. And as we rounded the corner, another dog owner with her dog passed by and the dog kind of lunged at Mara, and Mara's afraid of everything, so she's froze in her tracks. And then the second the perceived threat went away, Mara let out this huge shake and then just walked along her merry little way like everything was fine. And I was floored. This was like this big like, what moment? I couldn't believe it. Animals do this all the time. They shake off stress so it doesn't stay trapped in their body. But humans, I realized, don't do this. We've been conditioned not to. Let me give you an example. So, turns out giving a TED Talk is kind of stressful. So I went to go get a massage the other week. And the massage therapist was on this spot, and I was just like so good, you know, when they're on it. And I just let out this huge like, ah. And she started laughing, and I was so mortified. And so for the rest of the massage, I was hypervigilant not to say or do anything that would further humiliate me. And isn't that interesting, though? That's what we do. Instead of letting out our natural stress responses, we mask them. We pretend they're not there, and then we feel ashamed that we have them. Whew. So it's kind of like no wonder sometimes when we're like, feel like we're dying inside and someone's like, hey, how are you? And you're like, I'm great. But we're not great. So let's talk a little bit about the science behind all of this. I think Mara showed us that there is a recipe for relief inside of us that maybe we have forgotten. I had been trying to outthink stress for so many years when the answer was not only right in front of me, but it was something that I had been teaching for years. Movement is medicine. Yeah, let's talk about it. So when you are stressed or when you're anxious, your thinking brain, your prefrontal cortex, basically goes offline. The activity there just drops significantly. And this is important because this is the part of your brain that is responsible for logic and reasoning, problem solving, emotional regulation. So, all those thoughts that you need when you are like trying to solve this problem that is freaking you out aren't as readily available. And yet we continue to push through, ignoring our biology and expecting a different result. Can't outthink, outpush, out-hustle stress and anxiety because your body is in survival mode. If the thinking brain isn't steering the ship, then what is? It's your nervous system. Its job is to keep you safe. So it's always on scanning for threats. And when it finds a threat, it creates a response. You might have heard of that response as fight, flight, fawn, or freeze. And when that happens, that communication is delivered from body to brain and brain to body via your vagus nerve. But here's something you might not know that I think is so interesting. 80% of the communication goes from your body to your brain, and only 20% goes from your brain to your body. So that means when you are trying to out-mindset your anxiety and your stress, you have just entered a 4 versus 1 tug of war. And it's not gonna happen. When your body is screaming, I am not safe, no amount of wishful thinking will lift you up. And you know that if you've ever been in an anxiety attack and someone tells you to just calm down, you're like, thanks. I'll try that. Didn't think of that, wow. So think about it like this. When we are dysregulated, it's kind of like our body is on fire, okay? And in elementary school, we were taught to do something when we're on fire. We're supposed to stop, drop, and roll. Thank you very much. But when we are emotionally on fire, many of us do the opposite. We look at the fire and we go, God, I wonder how that fire got there in the first place. They try to analyze it. They try to numb it sometimes. Sometimes we numb ourselves so we can't feel the fire. Sometimes we just pretend like it's not there. But the fire still burns. When we are emotionally on fire, when we are dysregulated, all of those things like therapy and mindset work and wishful thinking and affirmations, those are awesome, and I say we do them, but we have to get the order right. When you are dysregulated and stressed, in the moment, you need to do something differently first. You need to stop, drop, and regulate. You want to learn how? Yes. Let's do it. So, first clock that we have any kind of stress or anxiety, we need to stop what we're doing, right? Because the only thing that we can do when we're in it is to just be more in it, so we need to get out of it, yeah? So that's step 1. Step 2 is dropping into your body. So for science purposes, you need to get a baseline measurement. Otherwise, you're not gonna know if the regulation worked. So what I recommend you do the next time you're stressed, you go, cool, I'm stressed, take a deep breath, let it out, and just scan your body from head to toe. Notice your quality of your breathing. Notice where you feel tightness in your body. Notice where you might have any aches or pains or discomfort, okay? Then, the next thing you do as you drop into your body is you ask yourself, what would feel good right now? What kind of movement would feel nice? Sometimes when I'm feeling some type of way, I gotta scream, I gotta thrash, I gotta move around. And then sometimes I just wanna curl into a ball and rock back and forth and just cry, yeah? So that is what you need to do in that moment. Stopping creates that space where we can start responding to life instead of reacting to it. Dropping lets you know where you're at and what to do next. And then regulating is the simplest part. You set a timer for 3 minutes and you move your body. Why 3 minutes? It works for thousands of my clients. It worked for me. I know it will work for you. It takes a little bit of time sometimes to get undysregulated, right? So If you feel like you need a little bit more energy, you can just shake your body like Mara. Sometimes it feels good to just dance to a song. Sometimes you can just sway back and forth, and that's enough. Every time you move, you're sending powerful signals of safety upwards that will allow your mind to calm. Pretty cool, right? That's all it takes. And the really neat thing about this is that it's different from working out, where you have to switch it up all the time. This, when you find something that works, keep doing it because your body will recognize that this is a signal of safety. And the more you do it, the faster it works. Stress will always be a part of life. Curveballs will come, but it does not have to run the show anymore. At 24, I thought I would never escape stress. At 34, it knocked me to the floor. But I am still standing here with you at 41, stronger and happier than ever because I learned how to stop, drop, and regulate. Every time you stop, you drop into your body and you move, you are reclaiming control. You are putting out the flames before they consume you, and you are building a nervous system that bends instead of breaks. So the next time you feel that tightness in your chest and that pit in your stomach and remember, the solution is not in fighting with your mind, it's in moving your body. Stop, drop, regulate. 3 words, 3 minutes, and a system to live with more calm, clarity, and power than you ever thought possible. Thank you.